Okay, hi there, food friends. It's Ralph behind the camera.
And Kevin.
I was trying to be quiet so you could concentrate on today's lesson.
Chicken and pastry today.
Oh, is that like a chicken soup or dumpling type
Kind
of
of,
thing?
yeah, not quite. A dumpling. Kind of between a noodle and a dumpling, sort of in between. And we borrowed this recipe from our good friends from the South. This is a very traditional Southern dish, Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to do first is start with the pastry. So here's what I've got. I've got 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour in my bowl.
Okay.
To that, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay? 1, 2.
Okay.
Okay?
Baking powder added to the flour.
Then we're going to season the flour with a little salt and a little pepper. So let's put a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper.
A little shaker.
Yeah, a little grind up here. And then we're just going to mix that together, and we can do that with a whisk. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a well kind of here in the center.
Okay.
And then I've got a 1/2 cup of milk, please. Whole milk or 2% milk. No skim here, okay? We've got a 1/2 cup of milk, and I've got 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter that I've melted. We're going to put that in there, okay? So we make the butter. This isn't buttermilk, although it is kind of butter.
In a literal sense.
In a literal sense. All right, we mix the butter and the milk together. Then we're going to add that to our dry ingredients.
So obviously that was butter that you had melted ahead of time?
Yeah, I just melted it in the microwave.
Okay.
And then we're going to bring this together.
So he poured it into the well that he created. Now he's just mixing it all.
Yeah, and we're just going to mix this to combine, and this is going to be our dough for our pastry here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And
I see you've got a lot of chicken. How much? Couple pounds?
well, that's a whole chicken cut up, and I want to say it's almost 3 pound. 3 pound.
Mostly dark meat?
Altogether. It's you know what? It's the whole chicken. So you've got 2 breasts, 2 thighs, 2 legs, and 2 wings.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If you wanted to, if you prefer the dark meat as we do, you could do all thighs. You could.
Some people like all the more of the white
but
meat.
here's the key. Whatever you want to do, get chicken that has the bone in, please.
Oh, okay.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little flour on my board. I'm going to take our dough and I'm going to turn it out on the board. And we're going to knead this just to kind of bring it together.
Kevin has the need to knead.
It actually, there's something, those of you who are bakers and bread makers and who biscuit makers, there is something really therapeutic to me about kneading this dough here. But we're just going to knead it. That's probably about good enough here. And we're going to, once we've got it sort of kneaded, and you can tell because the texture of the dough will change a little bit and it'll get less grainy and more smooth.
Smoother, okay.
Okay?
So then you just set it aside?
Yep, so then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it, I'm going to put it right back here in our mixing bowl. We don't want it to dry out, so I'm going to get some plastic wrap and cover it, and we'll just put it aside. And we're just going to let this get a little R and R. What I'm going to do?
Just put it directly on it.
Yeah, it'll be easier than trying to
Mess with
wrap
the-
this big bowl.
But the idea is to keep the moisture
Keep
in.
it covered, exactly. Okay?
Okay.
So there's that. All right, we're going to put it over here. Now, we're going to start on our chicken. Now, what I did is, whenever I buy chicken, I rinse it under cold water. And But what we want to do, Ralph, is we want to brown this chicken in this Dutch oven here. This is pretty much a one-pot meal.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm turning the temperature on. We're going to pat this chicken so that it's nice and dry.
Is there going to be any oil in the Dutch oven?
We are not going to use oil. What we are going to use is some butter.
Oh, okay. But so the patting it dry is to make sure it doesn't splash.
We want it to brown.
To brown and
not to steam.
Right. Okay.
So we want to take the moisture, as much moisture off as we can. I'm going to put, maybe a couple tablespoons of butter in the Dutch oven, and that is what we're going to use to sort of brown our chicken. Now you don't want, not all this chicken is going to fit in here at once. So I'm going to do this in batches. We'll do it in 2 batches.
And you don't want to crowd it. I know you told me that before.
Exactly. So we're going to pepper our chicken here before we brown it. And I think we'll also give it a little sprinkling of salt. But what's nice about this meal is it's sort of a it's kind of part, it's a little more than a soup, and it's more like almost a stew, kind of, okay? Mm-hmm. And you've got your chicken and you've got your starch all together. But what we're going to do is we're going to brown the chicken. As soon as this butter here is ready, we're going to, let me get a tong and we'll get the chicken in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1/2 of the chicken. There we go. And then I'm going to do the other. We're going to brown both sides here.
Okay.
So this isn't going to be like a total cook, but what we want to do is we want to brown it in the pot, because what that's going to do is that's going to give us some real flavor.
Like seal in the juices of the chicken?
That, but also it'll create sort of the fond at the bottom of this pot.
Oh, I see.
That will give us sort of enhanced chicken flavor. Okay, my butter's melted, so let's put in, we'll put in a breast, we'll put in a thigh, we'll put in a leg, and we'll put in one of the wings. All right, so we got 1/2 of the chicken browning. I'm going to brown it 3 to 5 minutes on one side, flip it, 5 minutes on the other side, then I'm going to take it out and I'll put our other half of the chicken in, repeat the process.
Right.
Okay? Ralph, take a look.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? That's what you want. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see we've got our chicken browned, and what we really wanted to achieve too is look in the pot there. You see that good stuff?
Yes.
That's big flavor. So to this, what we're going to do is I'm going to end up putting the chicken back in, but I'm going to put in
carefully, slowly add the chicken broth.
The chicken broth. 4 cups. And then 1 more cup of just water. Okay? And what I want to do, and it already did it when it went in, but I want to make sure
it loosens the stuff at the bottom.
All that brown fond at the bottom. Okay?
Okay.
That's big flavor. We want to loosen that up. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So, now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this back up to a boil.
Because these are still not thoroughly cooked, right?
No, they're not. They're just browned.
Right.
So we're going to put our breasts in first, because those are the biggest pieces. And we're basically going to cook this chicken, poaching it in the broth. And that's how we're going to cook the chicken. Okay?
Okay.
And let's see, we'll put in our drumsticks.
So
we've got 5 cups of chicken broth.
Okay.
4 cups of chicken broth, I'm sorry. A cup of water.
Right, so it's 5 liquid total.
Yep. I'm going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of poultry seasoning. I love sage. I love that flavor. And then I've got a couple stalks of celery here. We're going to put that in there. And this is just to flavor the broth, okay?
It's going to come out later.
Yeah, it's going to come out. And then I've got an onion I just cut in half. Here's a little trick. I put a toothpick through the onion to kind of hold it together. So that way I don't have a million pieces to sort of fish out,
sure.
okay? Because this onion, what it's going to do for us is it's going to just give us our flavor. We want that chicken juice.
And you have all the pieces of the chicken in there now?
Yep. All 8 pieces of the chicken are in there. We're going to bring this up to a boil. Going to turn it down to low and have it simmer, and then I'll cover it, and we're going to let it cook for about 30 minutes, okay? And again, that'll cook the chicken, poaching it in the chicken broth, making sure that the chicken is moist. So while our chicken is simmering away,
skin side down,
for about a half an hour, we're coming back to our pastry, Ralph, that has been sort of hanging out here, okay? So what we're going to do with this is we're going to roll this out into sort of a rectangular shape, or as close as I'm going to get. We'll see.
Kevin failed Play-Doh class.
So I've got my board floured here, and we're going to roll this out maybe about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. And again, it's, you know, it's kind of like almost like a biscuit dough.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the baking powder in it. And of course it's
salt and pepper.
Mm-hmm. You can see the pepper in there.
Yeah.
So I want it to be about a 12 by 12 rectangle. I don't know that I'm going to get a perfect rectangle, but we'll get...
That's the roundest rectangle I've ever seen.
We'll get it here as good as we can. Now, let's see. That's pretty good. It's probably a little wider than 12 and a little narrower than 12, but we'll call it that. Okay, so here's our biscuits, our pastries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in about a 1-inch strip. Okay? So we're going to go in about 1-inch intervals. Now, the great tool to use for this, and of course, naturally I don't have one.
A ruler?
Well, I can approximate the width, but a pizza cutter.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you could just, reel it right down, and you wouldn't have to do sort of this longer cut with the knife, but that's okay.
Okay.
You know what? We make do with what we have.
Yeah.
So
the important thing with cooking and baking is it's got to be fun and not stressful.
Yeah, and you can't have every little gadget and things, and sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth. Okay. All right. So there's what we got. Now we're going to cut on a diagonal 1 inch, roughly. And what that's going to create...
Oh, like diamond shapes.
Like diamonds. They're not all going to be diamonds, but a lot of them will be. The pieces on the
outside,
the perimeter, won't be
they'll
diamond.
Be a little less than perfect.
Yeah, but that's okay.
But yeah, they're
going to taste just as good. So again, we're going in 1-inch intervals on a diagonal. Now, if you didn't want to fuss, you could just go this way with them and just have rectangular. But we like to have fun with shapes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be fun. So the majority of the pieces of the pastry will be diamond shaped.
Yeah. But, there's nothing we can do about the ends.
Yeah, but that's fine.
And I'll do one more cut here. Okay. There we go. There's our pieces of pastry. They're going to sit there and rest. I'm going to take this wrap and just lay it on top. And we're going to leave them there until the chicken is done cooking. When the chicken's done cooking, we'll take the chicken out, put the pastry in.
Oh.
That's our next step. So,
Yum.
Ralph, our chicken has been simmering away for half an hour. Boy, does it smell good up in here.
Sure does.
All right. So we're basically going to take everything out of the pot, all the solids. The vegetables have done their service, and we thank them. And we will get the onion and the celery out, as well as all the chicken. Then I'm going to bring the temperature back up here on the broth. Let me get this chicken out of here. So we're going to bring the broth up to a boil.
Mm-hmm.
Look how dark and rich that is.
Yes.
Yum. Okay. So I'm going to let this chicken cool a little bit, because what we'll do is we will shred the chicken off the bone. I'm going to let it cool for a few minutes, and that chicken will end up back in the pot. But the dumplings, or I keep calling them dumplings, the pastry now needs to cook.
Oh.
You need to cook the pastry.
And you're going to discard the vegetables that did their service, you
Yes.
said. Okay, so
So
I can see how the pot is boiling.
we're going to take our pieces of pastry
And just gently pop them
gently lay those in,
in. And they'll cook in that broth?
and they will cook in the broth. So they're going to absorb. First they'll fall to the bottom, and then they'll come up to the top. So they're going to absorb the chicken broth, and then they'll cook, and they'll kind of puff up on their own. So these are going to take about 12 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes to cook. And then while they're doing that, I will shred the chicken off the bone. So back to the chicken here, what I'm going to do is you can see the skin will just slide right off. I'm going to take all the meat off the bone, discard the skin and bones, and then we'll come back, we'll put that chicken, shredded chicken, back into the pot and just let it warm through again, and we will have our chicken and pastry.
I'm putting that skin in a tortilla and eating it.
Oh, waste not. All right, so our pastry has been cooking for almost 15 minutes. They are nice and plump and puffed. So what we're going to do now, Ralph, is we're going to just add, look at all the beautiful chicken we got off of our cooked chicken.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to add that back into the pot. And we're going to mix that in.
And you see why it's almost more of a stew than a soup, and it's more of a meal in a pot. A soup.
It really is a whole meal. So I'm going to let this cook for maybe about 2 minutes. This is a good time to do a quick little seasoning.
Taste test.
Good on salt. I'm going to give it just a little bit of black pepper. So we'll let this cook literally just 2 minutes. I want that chicken to heat through again nicely. And then we're going to come back and have our chicken and pastry. All right, it is time. I think this is best served in a bowl so that you can get all that wonderful stock.
Yeah, I agree, except for me, it would be a bigger bowl.
And now it's on the hot side, so what I really want to do is try that.
Make sure the pastries are cooked and not too doughy. It is kind of like a dumpling, isn't it?
Like a dumpling, but not as, thick.
Not as doughy.
But it has the texture. And then you have it with the chicken. That is good. I mean, what's not to like? Look at that, Ralph. So I know you're ready. So you know what? This is what we're having for dinner tonight. Maybe for lunch tomorrow too, depending on how much we get into it. But we had a great time doing it. We hope that wherever you are, you're safe and you're well and you're strong. And we're glad that you could spend some time with us making chicken and pastry. So thanks for being a part of this one. We'll see you next time right here on Cavalcade of Food. Bye, everybody.
Enjoy.